NEWSLINE. Good evening and welcome to another edition of NEWSLINE on TV1. For Newsfirst, I'm Shehan Ranatunga sitting in for Faraz Shaukat Ali today. Now, joining us on the program is Dr. G. Veerasinghe. Dr. G. Veerasinghe is the General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Communist Party, which is now part of the Freedom People's Alliance. Dr. G. Veerasinghe is no stranger to NEWSLINE. Welcome back, Doctor.
Welcome.
Doctor, no doubt your party is very busy these days with election preparations. Speaking of elections, when the actual elections will take place is still up in the air. We know that the government printer yesterday said that they are unable to print the ballot papers at present because they don't have enough funding. And so the Election Commission said that the date for postal voting will have to be postponed. The latest news, however, is that they say that they can proceed with the pre-announced dates. Doctor, there's a lot of confusion, isn't there, about these elections?
There is a huge confusion created by the authorities. First of all, it is in the president in the capacity of Minister of Finance. I hope is supposed to facilitate this election process, right? Instead of doing that, we see there are a lot of obstructions that are coming all the way from that level, right, to different levels of the government. From that level, starting from that level, and you can see many other branches of government or rather the executive. They have taken an obstructive kind of attitude towards the local government elections. You see, if you count, apparently there have been so many attempts from the side of president, right? Starting from various stories about funding issues, and you can remember then there was a circular asking the district secretaries not to accept the deposits, right? Like that, so many attempts, and then there were some court cases as well. And finally, now the government printer, refused to print them because they are not receiving money. They are not going to do that unless they are getting money in advance. Unlike in all the other times where they receive money only after completing the job and even after so many months after elections. This time they want this money to be paid even before printing. It's a strange kind of attitude. So you see that it is very clear the government is trying, or rather doing everything possible to stop these elections from happening, right? So this is why that we are in this current status, right? So as the Communist Party of Sri Lanka, as well as the Supreme Lanka Coalition, as well as the Freedom People's Alliance, right? We are in all these political organizations. Communist Party is a part of this Supreme Lanka Coalition also, as well as of the Freedom People's Alliance, as you said in your introduction. We have taken a very firm standing on this matter, and you must have seen the statement issued by our alliance yesterday, condemning what is happening at the moment, as well as inviting all opposition parties to come together to protect democracy in this country, right? And today morning, the representative, we made a representation to the Election Commission and to learn what is happening and to express our anger over what is happening and to demand the Election Commission to take necessary steps to continue with the election process, and we hope to continue with our agitation with different levels of the government and the executive, in order to achieve the elections, local government elections.
Doctor, you said earlier, you made a very strong accusation. You said that this situation is being created by the authorities. Now, Doctor, somebody can argue that that is untrue, that Sri Lanka is facing an economic crisis, that Sri Lanka can't afford to have elections in this situation, as we are facing multiple crises on multiple fronts, and we are seeking out the assistance of the IMF and foreign nations. So surely Sri Lanka can't afford to have an election. What do you say about that?
We don't accept that kind of arguments. I mean, that argument we don't accept, right? Chayan, you must be knowing that we have been printing many billions of rupees a day during last so many months, right? Actually, we have printed altogether about trillions, right? Trillions of rupees. They're printed, right? Now, this election process, it requires only 10 billion, right? So printing 10 billion, I don't think is going to be an issue for the economy or for the country, right? And you see that now holding elections are vital, right, for the democracy, as well as to overcome the current crisis. The holding election is not a problem, but it's a part of the solution. Now people are not happy about the way things are happening, right? And now about the way that the crisis is being handled, and about the way that many things are happening in the country. So therefore, let people speak, right? And some people say, no, things are very fine. Everything is happening as planned, and things are going to be very rosy. And you are going to receive that, so many funds and so many support from other parts of the world, right? So you see that. So there is a controversial. There's a confusion, and there are differences of, different views on the way of things are happening currently. So therefore, let people speak. And when you go to people, then they will speak, and they will actually express their views, right, in the way of casting their ballots, right? So then government also can gauge the people's opinion, or the rather view, or the way that the people look at, or the think, or perceive what government is doing, right? So therefore, holding elections is very crucial at this point. We think, whatever the outcome, it's very crucial, very important. So you see, and then of course there are, now the way that we think is that, people are very angry, they are frustrated, so many issues. Therefore, you see that give people a chance to speak out. So that would be helpful, not only to solve this situation. We don't accept this funding issue. It's 10 billion. It's nothing for a government. And as I told you, trillions of rupees have been printed during last so many months. Therefore, government can, spend this money. So this is a priority need of the country, and we don't accept any other argument on that matter.
Now, Doctor, if I may, someone watching you speak might say, yes, but while it certainly gives people the opportunity to vent out their frustrations and express their opinion on the situation in the country, they might ask, what difference does a local government election really make? It doesn't change policy decisions. It doesn't change the government. All it does is place the authorities in the local government councils. So what answer do you give to those people? Should this money be spent on such an election?
Yeah, you have to, because this is a part of the democracy, and we don't accept that argument at all. You see that we understand, people are not, there is a bad reputation about these local government bodies, municipal councils, urban councils, and divisional councils. People are not happy, true. But you can make a real difference, right? You can make a real difference, right? And now look at, you see the food crisis that we are facing. People are hungry. They don't have, people don't have food to eat, right? Now, we don't see from the side of the government that they have taken any step towards, producing, or rather increasing agriculture, or rather, food cultivation, to encourage or to increase food cultivation. But now these local government bodies, You see, the divisional councils are ideal, right, to promote, to start, a rural level food cultivation programs, which would be immensely helpful to overcome, hunger in the country. So why do some people say that, it is a waste of spending money to, have these elections? Let people elect fresh people to these bodies. And there are so many things that, that we can do through these councils to alleviate or to overcome the current situation. So this is why we said that it's a part of the solution rather than, looking it as a part of the problem, holding elections. I can tell you, you see, few things if you want, that we can do through these councils, right? If we, as a solution.
Good to ask you.
You see, now I told you. Yeah, you see, now for an example, you see that now one thing is that, these councils are not very popular among some sections of people, of the population. But then we can make them popular. Actually, we can make them efficient councils for the service of people of the given area. Now, this is why we have suggested, you see, if we come to power in these councils, we are going to establish which lacks the recognition or national level recognition. Now, you say you go to Ambalangoda area, so they have their own kind of things like, mask and things like that. And you go to another area, they have their own kind of cultural practices, which needs some kind of development and to bring them to a national level. And, even you can use them to improve or develop tourism in your areas. So therefore, you can use these councils in a creative manner to contribute to the economy of the country as well as to develop your area, your council area. So therefore, we think that these councils can be effectively used for the to overcome the current economic crisis. There are so many other things also.
Doctor, you listed out a commendable list of measures which can be taken to address the people's problems. But of course, ultimately, the bottom line in all this is the most crucial question, in my opinion, is where's the money going to come from? How are you going to raise the funding necessary to do this?
Yeah, now Shehan, you need money. I know you need money, but you don't need dollars for all these things. True, we lack of rupees also. That is also I accept. But don't we agree that we can start a rural, or rather the agricultural development program, food cultivation program? Do we think that we need many millions of money for that? I don't think. So there are so many things that you can start. You can start doing, right? With available, whatever the available resources. And there are so many this what you call the minor crops, right? Like cinnamon, pepper, right? Things like that. You can you don't need a lot of money to develop these things. And you go to fisheries sector. There are so many things that you can do. I mean, you get harvest within 3, 4, 5, 6 months. The prawns culture and kind of things. So therefore, and then this rural cultural activity, you don't think many billions for that. This is the I am really sorry to hear this kind of statements, because this is the perception now established, or rather the understanding established by the authorities and by the major media in this country. Without having IMF funds, without having other funding, you can't do anything. That is the kind of very negative attitude that is impacting our life. Now people are, you don't get this so-called IMF funding, and it looks like nothing happens, and people are deserting the country. What is this? And then, of course, On the other side of the story is that there are many other sources from where you can get funding, but we don't have the political will to go for them.
Doctor, let me stop you there while we cross over for a short commercial break as we take a look at tonight's headlines, but we will return to this point right after. Don't go anywhere.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Postal voting will go ahead as planned, says the chairman of the National Election Commission. Ballot papers to be printed in the absence of required funds. Political parties rally against 21st conspiracy to delay the elections. Top US delegation to fly to Sri Lanka in US Air Force planes. PUCSL goes ahead with proposal to raise electricity tariffs, disregarding the objections raised by its own chairman. Kidney patients in crisis due to medicine shortage.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you. Experience the best in healthcare at Durden's Hospital's new Alfred Place wing. We continue to evolve into a purpose-built hospital of the future, with an ambience built to deliver world-class care. Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
You're saying sounds a lot like talking about a homegrown solution. But Sri Lanka has bad memories of homegrown solutions when we take, for example, what the former president said about a homegrown solution to Sri Lanka's problems. We know where that went.
I have my doubts about this kind of statements. Now we have to have our homegrown solutions. How else you can do? Now you see. What happened to our economy is actually, I mean, now in recent, during last 1 or 2 weeks, we had the 75th anniversary of the independence, and then after the prorogation, the president enters the parliament. In both occasions, right, president asked us not to go after people who made mistakes. We agree. Okay, you don't have to find, who made mistakes in managing these things. Okay, but we have to understand where we went wrong, right? If we don't understand where we went wrong, then we won't be able to overcome the situation, right? The main mistake or the main point where we went wrong was our economic strategy. Our economic strategy, which introduced in 1978. You see that we are not opposed to opening the country. Okay, we are not opposed to doing business with other countries. But if you in the name of opening the economy, in the name of integrating Sri Lanka with the world market, if you are destroying your national production or production economy, so then you will end up in this kind of situation. Now look at the import-export practices that we had. We had a trade deficit for last 4 decades or so, starting from 1978. Each year, we had a negative trade deficit. One economist I have heard was saying from year 2005 to 2020, that's 15 years, the cumulative trade deficit was over 85 billion US dollars. 85. So that is because, we imported twice, but we export. We were exporting, shall we say, 1,000 millions of dollars. We were importing 2,000, 3,000 millions of dollars worth things. You see, so then how, it is obvious at one point, you come to this crash, you won't be able to continue. And then the next thing was that, your state revenue which came down from about 24% of GDP to about 6 point. That is because of your wrong tax policies. So these were the two major mistakes in our economic strategy. Now, this is why we say, now, if for us to, I mean, I don't want to find fault with anybody, but this is where we went wrong. So therefore, we have to rectify both these points. This is why we say we have to go to a production economy. Production economy. You know, Shehan, in year 2003, we had a similar IMF funding facility that was for $2 billion. That time, you know, there was a, you know, Secretary Finance, I'm not going to name the name, then there was this IMF person. In their negotiations, IMF insisted Sri Lanka to stop industrial program in the country. Actually the IMF is responsible for the current status of affairs in this country. That is one thing that I wanted to emphasize here. But okay, we have gone to IMF now, and we have undergone all these difficulties, but still we are not getting anything anywhere closer to to that money. But then there are other things that we can do, right? We have other local other things that we can do in our country, without having this IMF funding. That is one side of the story. I have spoken here, agriculture, then maybe industries as well as, and then even fisheries sector. Now, say for an example, Sri Lanka is having 8 times bigger, of land area from actually sea area as the exclusive economic zone. It's, if you take, that is that economy, that sea, the sea area is, it's more than 500,000 square kilometers, which we have not touched yet. So if we think that without having those so-called US dollars, that we can't explore these resources, which we don't accept, right? And then, of course, there are other things as well, like even tourism industry, right? The government is not taking, or rather the different branches of the government are not taking effective measures. I can give you a few examples. See the way that we are handling Russian tourists. Russia was asking our government to allow them to use their tourists, to allow their card, for transactions, what they call the meal card, right? Which the central bank did not agree to. So we can't understand that Russia is one of the countries which sends us tourists, right? So, if they are genuine, why can't they, now in all the other countries are allowing, but Sri Lanka is not ready. There are other situations also, which I am not going to touch here. But then there is another totally a different side to this story. There are other lenders who can help us. You see, the world has been changed. Let us accept this reality. The growth of the world, or rather the economy, the main part of the economy is in Asia now, of the world economy, right? 50% of, the production happens in Asia. It is China, it is India, it is Japan, it is East Asia, it is Singapore, it is Korea, South Korea, right? This is where the economy happens in the world, right? So you see, if you take the foreign, reserves, the biggest 10 reserves, if you take, except for Switzerland, all the other 9 countries are in Asia or Eurasia, right? So you have money here, and the economy is happening here. So we have to, understand this reality, and we have to act accordingly. We have to reorient our, trade and economic relations. We are not asking the government or anybody else to, do away with Europe or do away with the United States. No, we continue to have our relations with them. But please understand, there is another world, immediately within our neighborhood. So we have to reorient our relationships, especially the trade and economy. and there is BRICS Bank, there is this Asia Infrastructure Bank. These are, they are lending banks. We go there, go to these places. We are not doing that because we don't have the political will. That is why the reactionary officials of Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance, together with the reactionary not very well-learned politicians in the government, are creating this situation to our country, right? To our country.
As the show has now come to an end, but we thank you as always for your company on NEWSLINE, and we certainly hope to see you again soon on our show. Thank you to you, and of course, thank you to all of our viewers. Have yourself a great day, and thanks for watching.